I'm in the crossroads, and I haven't done this in years. I'm going to a concert, actually. Dan Wilson and his orchestra, which Dan Wilson was Trip Shakespeare. Probably one of my favoriteest bands of all time. And they were playing, so I just had to come see them here at the record bar. It's been years since I've been to a show, and last time I was at the record bar, it was in Westport. So the opening band has begun. It is Outhouse. They're not bad. I don't know how well I can hear this. Okay, well, Matt Wilson and his orchestra set up. Coming into the bar, I had to show proof of vaccination, which is the first time I've ever had to do that, so that was interesting. I had to dig it up out of my work email. I had it in my phone, but I had to look it up in my work email because I deleted it out of my phone. Oops. Like I've been deceived. I wonder why all we see is stars only for vagabonds. It's coming down. Hey, I just got out of the bar and it was a very, very good show. I've been thinking about writing a blog on my blog page. It's sort of a letter, a weird way of reviewing a band, but a letter of apology. And first off, I don't do reviews of anything. My opinion isn't nothing on. But when something has exceptionally influenced my life, or a piece of art has touched me, or performance by a band, especially this band, I feel compelled. I just don't know if I could do it justice, but essentially I used to listen to this band back in the 80s and early 90s called Trip Shakespeare from Minneapolis. And the story goes that I bought a cassette by them, and then I accidentally left it in the car on a hot summer day and it melted. So when I went in the Air Force, I loved that music, that album, so much that I had to go out and find it again and buy another one just so I could listen to it. And this was in 1990. That's how old I are. And then I think in 92 or so, I think it was 92, maybe it was 93, I think it was 92, I went and saw them play together at the Blue Note in Columbia. And then things happened. Their albums didn't do super well, not because they were really bad or hokey or anything, but because they had the misfortune of being a certain type of band when the music style totally changed and the whole record industry just totally went nuts, and all people wanted to listen to was grunge. And this was 91, 92, 93. And so people were like, oh, well, let's forget about all the old bands that we used to like. We're going to listen to this grunge stuff. And grunge had this kind of mentality about it that everything had to be macho, We got to be heavy and hard and dark and macho, and themes of depression and darkness and hard, and how hard can we play and how hard can we mosh. And Trip Shakespeare was kind of a... How do I explain Trip Shakespeare to somebody that's never ever heard him? Very intelligent, kind of a jam band, but not like Not like bands like Fish or Grateful Dead. I wouldn't even put them in that category. A lot of hippies might like them, but they're not in that category either. They were, I don't know, they're really hard to describe. They were very unique. All their songs had harmonies. Matt Wilson, who formed Shakespeare with his drummer, and her name is slipping my mind. She was unique too because she played the drums standing up. She wasn't like the typical drummer that sat on a throne. She would stand while she played. And when they had a reunion, probably 10 years ago now, 11 years ago, and she actually played with them, she was still doing that. She still played that way. They were just very unique. Matt was not afraid to sing falsettos in his songs, and he still does that. Very melodic, and you just don't find bands like that hardly anywhere anymore, and they're really missed. I'm not getting choked up. I've been fighting the remains of a head cold that I've had that I caught from the youngest kid. And, this stuff remains with me forever. The coughing and But, yeah, so... And, in the past... Since 2017, when I left Channel 4... under bad circumstances, I've been really having to manage my depression really hard, and then I came into working, thankfully, at a place where the people seem to be a lot of the people, especially the management, seem to be a lot better, a lot more adept at dealing with people, and but I was working in a role that I felt I wasn't very good at, and that I was not necessarily, the work I was doing was not necessarily very much appreciated, although I know in retrospect it was when I did it well. One of the rare times I did it well. But, and the pandemic hit. Can we say pandemic? Beerfluenza epidemic hit, and basically I was stuck in a cave, and and you go back and you watch my videos, you could see that I was making jokes about being alone with the ghosts in the building because I work overnights, and I was down in a cave, isolated. There would go weeks when I wouldn't even see another human being at my workplace, and I know a lot of people have to deal with that, because there are a lot of people who work from home and never saw anybody in the workplace either. So, when there were times when I was waiting on scripts to come in to edit and stuff, having access to the internet and everything, I would kill time and keep myself alert and awake by playing videos. And I got into some music videos, and that's when I saw Matt Wilson and his orchestra. And he has a song called When I Was a Writer, and it really connected with me because it was exactly what I had been going through, this feeling of, hey, my best days are behind me, and the muse has left me, and I'm completely alone and lost and not appreciated, and it in a way, even though it's kind of like this down song, in a way, it made me feel better because it's like, hey, here's this other person who's obviously dealt with these same feelings and emotions and wrote them down in this nice, very beautiful song, and is getting through it, is managing it, and it helped me along, and other things helped me along too, other ways of coping. And so I guess this is sort of like my review, and I wanted to start out by saying that I'm sorry to the band for abandoning them in the early 90s, which that's not completely true. I just moved on to other interests in life and lost touch with a lot of musical things that I used to, but I came back to it, and it was funny. It was kind of like, man, I used to really like this band called Trip Shakespeare. I wonder what happened to them. I wonder what they're doing. And I checked in on them, and I discovered Matt Wilson and his orchestra. And I never knew, this is funny story, I never knew that Dan Wilson was A, his brother, and B, wrote the song Closing Time, which I like. And it's hilarious because the song Closing Time also sort of hit in a time when I was feeling alone and depressed, and it kind of made me feel better about things. But also, I've discovered that when I talk to a lot of people who work in bars and restaurants and stuff like that, mostly bars, they hate the song. And the reason they hate the song is because every time it's closing time, somebody decides to play Closing Time, and they are just so sick of hearing it. Even though it's a great song and everybody loves it, people who work at bars and stuff don't like Closing Time because they always feel. And then it was funny, I kind of rediscovered Trip Shakespeare and was playing Dan Wilson, and I played Closing Time, and my wife was like, oh my God, I can't stand that song. And I'm like, what? It's a great song. I love it. She said, yeah, except that I used to, when I ran my business, which was a cyber cafe in the Philippines, she said, every time we were shutting the place down, somebody would play Closing Time, and I got sick of it. Well, I think that's hilarious. But anyway, the Wilson brothers are very, very talented, and they surround themselves with talented musicians. Check out, there's a Christmas concert they do annually in Minneapolis, and it's run by I should know this. It's run by a band that the bass player for Trip Shakespeare is in, and they always play Snow Day. They always play that song, and they always make a big production out of it. And it's an annual Christmas tradition in the Twin Cities, and it's kind of a really nice one. And usually they put it on the PBS stations up there, and the news standards. And the news standards are interesting because the piano player for the news standards is the one of the founding members of a band up there called The Suburbs, which is a kind of almost like a nihilistic new wave band from the 80s. It's been kind of a standard band, and they still play out in Minneapolis. And they do their annual Christmas concert, and I'd love to watch it this year if it's going to happen. It may have been another one of these victims of beerfluenza, like a lot of things. And they always play Snow Days and Snow Day. And there's a part of the song where there's a speaking part in the song, which is a common Matt Wilson technique in some of his music, where he adds a speaking part in the song. It's like a call and response almost sort of deal. And the bass player does the speaking part really well, and his first name is John, and I can't remember his last name. I'm terrible with names. But he played in Trip Shakespeare the whole time. Well, I wouldn't say the whole time with the band, but Trip Shakespeare was a 4-piece, but they sounded like they had a lot more musicians than that because of the way they did their harmonies, and very talented musicians. Well, anyway, I have been talking way too long about something that I love, and definitely very boorish and lecturous, but I'm just kind of on a high. I haven't been to a show in forever, and I got to talk to my heroes and do the groupie thing and the fan thing, and by the way, Matt Wilson made it a point, and all the members of the band made it a point of walking through the audience and talking to everyone, which, you know, that's definitely not a rock star attitude. That's definitely a down to earth, and we appreciate you. And I can imagine they probably get some tedious conversations. I probably gave them the most tedious conversation of all last night or tonight. But I imagine also that you can get a good kick out of it by, to me, that's probably one of the better things about traveling and going out, is meeting people and finding out things. And so I got to do this diarrhea of the mouth routine with Matt Wilson and spilled my guts about everything and embarrassed myself. But I'm very happy that I got to see him. And I don't know what, 1992 and 2000, what year is this? 2011? No, 2021. That's when you're real truly getting old. The years, you can't even believe how many years there've been. That's about 30 years. Damn. Jeepers. Anyway, I'm almost home. Call it a night. I've abandoned my kids, and I can't leave them alone too long. Although I hope that they've been good and they did exactly what I said and they went to bed and everything after watching their movie. So, and the missus who couldn't come along with me, and she would have loved this show. She would have fallen in love with this band. She would have loved it. She would have really loved the show. But she has to work tonight. She's on call, so it's too bad. Anyway, I gotta say, hee hee.